I stared at the laptop screen until my eyes burned, scrolling through endless job postings that all seemed to blur together. The tiny studio apartment in Seoul was quiet except for the hum of the ancient refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic below. It was nearly midnight and I'd just returned from my third part-time job that week, serving coffee to businessmen who barely looked at me as they barked their orders. My phone buzzed. Grandmother. Jaemoya, have you eaten? Her voice was firm, commanding even through the crackling phone line all the way from Jeju Island. Yes, grandmother, I lied, glancing at the empty cup of instant noodles from yesterday. Don't lie to me, boy. I raised you better than that. I smiled despite myself. Even hundreds of kilometers away she could see right through me. I'll eat soon, grandmother. I promise. You should come home. Your parents miss you. I miss you. I will, grandmother. But first I need to make you proud. I need to find a real job. She sighed, that particular sigh that meant she was both frustrated and proud. You already make me proud, JMO. You always have. Remember what I taught you. Stand firm like a mountain, bend like bamboo only when necessary, and never let anyone make you feel lesser because of your designation. I recited, the words as familiar as my own heartbeat. Good boy. Now eat something and sleep. After we hung up, I returned to my job search with renewed determination. That's when I saw it. Urgent, nanny needed for triplet boys, age 8. Must be strict, disciplined, and extremely patient. Previous nannies have not lasted more than 2 weeks. Competitive salary. Live-in position available. I read it 3 times and with each reading my smile grew wider. This was perfect. This was exactly the kind of challenge grandmother had prepared me for. Growing up with her on Jeju Island, she'd never once treated me like a fragile omega who needed coddling. While other omega children were learning flower arrangement and how to present themselves beautifully for potential alphas, I was learning discipline, structure, and how to command respect regardless of my designation. The world will try to tell you that you're weak, she'd said countless times, her weathered hands gripping my shoulders. But strength isn't about overpowering others. It's about knowing yourself, standing by your principles, and never backing down when you know you're right. I clicked the apply button before I could second-guess myself. The next morning, my phone rang at exactly 8 a.m. Is this Choi JMO? The voice was crisp, professional, female. Yes, speaking. This is Secretary Park calling on behalf of Mr. Kim Young. We received your application for the nanny position. Can you come for an interview today at 2 p.m.? My heart raced. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. She rattled off an address in Gangnam that made my eyebrows rise. That was one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Seoul. I spent the next few hours preparing. I dressed simply but neatly, black slacks, a white button-down shirt and my late grandfather's watch. Grandmother always said that presentation mattered, but authenticity mattered more. The taxi driver's eyes widened when I gave him the address. Fancy neighborhood, he commented. Job interview? Something like that. We pulled up to gates that were at least 3 meters tall, sleek black metal with a subtle geometric pattern. Through them, I could see a mansion that looked like it belonged in an architectural magazine. All clean lines, floor-to-ceiling windows, and modern elegance. I pressed the intercom button. Yes. A male voice this time, deep and commanding even through the speaker. Choi JMO. I'm here for the interview. The gates swung open silently and I walked up the curved driveway, my shoes clicking against pristine stone pavers. The front door opened before I could knock, revealing a woman in her 50s wearing a neat gray suit. Mr. Choi, please come in. I'm Secretary Park. Mr. Kim is currently handling a business call, so I'll take you to meet the children first. I followed her through a foyer that was larger than my entire apartment, past minimalist art pieces and furniture that probably cost more than I'd earn in a year. But I kept my expression neutral. Grandmother had taught me never to be impressed by wealth, respect people, not their possessions. I should warn you, Secretary Park said as we climbed a sweeping staircase, the boys are spirited. I understand. No, I don't think you do. We've had 12 nannies in the past 6 months. The longest lasted 17 days. I smiled. What happened to her? They put hair removal cream in her shampoo. We stopped outside a door covered in colorful stickers and hand-drawn signs that said things like, keep out, and danger zone, and enter if you dare. Secretary Park knocked. Boys, we have a visitor. Silence. She knocked again. Minjun Minho Minjae. Open this door right now. More silence, then giggling. I stepped forward. Excuse me, Secretary Park. I raised my voice, clear and authoritative. My name is Choi JMO, and I'm here to interview for the position of your nanny. You have exactly 10 seconds to open this door and greet me properly, or I'm leaving. 10, 9, 8. The door flew open, revealing 3 identical faces with mischievous grins. They were beautiful children with bright eyes and messy dark hair, wearing matching mischief like a uniform. "Who says you get to count?" one of them challenged. "I do. I'm Choi JMO. And you are?" "Why should we tell you?" I crouched down to their eye level, something I'd learned from grandmother. Never talk down to children, it only makes them defensive. Because it's polite. Because I asked nicely. And because I genuinely want to know which one of you is the ringleader. The 3 boys exchanged glances, clearly not expecting that response. "I'm Kim Min Jun," said the one in the middle, puffing out his chest. "I'm the oldest by 3 minutes. "I'm Kim Min Ho," said the one on the left. "I'm the smartest." "I'm Kim Min Jae," said the one on the right. "I'm the most handsome." "You're all handsome," I said simply. "Now, shall we talk about the rules?" "We don't follow rules," Min Jun declared. "That's fine. Then I won't take this job. Goodbye." I stood up and turned to leave. Secretary Park looked panicked, but I kept walking. "Wait." Min Ho called out. "You're not even going to try?" I turned back. "Try what? To force you to do things you don't want to do? That's not how respect works. You don't want a nanny who'll actually care about you and help you become good men. You just want someone to torment. I'm not interested in that job." For the first time, the triplets looked uncertain. "What if?" Min Jae started quietly. "What if we wanted to try? To follow rules? Then we'd start with 3 simple ones. 1. Respect each other and everyone in this house. 2. Honesty always, even when it's hard. 3. Actions have consequences, both good and bad. Can you handle that?" They looked at each other, having one of those silent conversations that siblings, especially triplets, seem to share. "Okay," Min Jun said finally. "We can try." "Good. Now where's your playroom? I want to see what kind of trouble you've been getting into." Before we dive into this heartwarming, emotional, slow burn romance Omegaverse story, note, this is an original work of Milliflex channel. If seen in another channel that is not Milliflex, please report that channel for copyright and impersonation. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. Now let's dive in. As they eagerly led me down the hall, chattering about their various experiments and adventures, I caught Secretary Park's expression, somewhere between shock and hope. An hour later, I was sitting in an office that looked like something out of a business magazine, facing the man I assumed was Kim Young. And oh, what a man he was. I'd been prepared for wealthy. I'd been prepared for alpha. I hadn't been prepared for him. Kim Young was probably in his early 30s, with sharp features that belonged on a billboard, dark hair styled perfectly, and a presence that filled the room before he even spoke. He wore a charcoal suit that fit him like it was made specifically for his body, which it probably was, and when his dark eyes met mine, I felt something I hadn't expected. My Omega instincts stirred, whispering that this was an alpha worth noticing. I immediately shut them down. I was here for a job, not to be swept off my feet by a handsome face and powerful pheromones. "Mr. Choi JMO. His voice was as commanding as I'd expected, but there was something else. Exhaustion maybe, or worry. "Secretary Park tells me you're still here. That's already more impressive than most candidates." "Your sons are lovely children," I said simply. His eyebrows rose slightly. "Lovely? That's not the word most people use. Most people probably don't take the time to understand them. And you do." "I understand that they're 8 years old, they've lost their mother, and they've watched a parade of nannies come and go. They're testing boundaries because no one's given them firm ones. They're acting out because it's the only way they know to get attention. Am I wrong?" Kim Young leaned back in his chair, studying me with an intensity that made my skin warm. "My wife died 3 years ago. Cancer. The boys were 5. Since then it's been difficult. I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you." He picked up what I recognized as my resume. "You have a degree in early childhood education from Korea University. Good grades. No formal work experience except part-time positions. Why should I hire you? Because I'm not afraid of your sons. Because I know how to set boundaries with kindness but firmness. Because my grandmother raised me to be strict but fair, and those are exactly the qualities your children need right now." "Your grandmother raised you? Not your parents." "My parents are wonderful, but I chose to live with my grandmother. She's from a different generation. One that believed in discipline, structure, and earning respect rather than demanding it. She taught me that being an Omega doesn't mean being weak. It means being strong in different ways." Something flickered in Kim Young's expression. Respect, maybe, or intrigue. "The position is live-in," he said. "You'd have your own suite, of course. Meals provided. Salary is competitive." He named a figure that was triple what I'd been hoping for. I kept my expression neutral, though my heart was racing. "And the hours?" "Officially Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But realistically, the boys might need you at odd hours. I travel frequently for business. Sometimes I'm gone for days at a time. What about weekends? Those would be yours unless I'm traveling and you're needed. You'd be compensated for overtime, naturally. I considered this. It was more than generous. It was life-changing. But there was one more thing. I have one condition, I said. His eyes narrowed slightly. You're in no position to make demands, Mr. Choi. Nevertheless, I have one. I need your permission to discipline the boys when necessary. Not physically, I added quickly, seeing his expression darken. But consequences. If they misbehave, they need to understand there will be appropriate repercussions. Timeouts, loss of privileges, extra chores. I won't undermine your authority, but I need you to support mine. And if I disagree with your methods? Then we discuss it like adults, away from the boys. But in the moment, we present a united front. Children need consistency. Kim Young stood up, extending his hand. You have yourself a deal, Mr. Choi. When can you start? I stood as well, taking his hand. His grip was firm, warm, and sent an unexpected jolt through me. Our eyes met, and for just a moment I saw something there, curiosity, interest, something that made my Omega instincts purr with satisfaction. I pulled my hand back first. I can start Monday. That gives me time to pack and say goodbye to my current obligations. Monday it is. Secretary Park will send you the contract and details. Welcome to the family, JMSI. As I left that office, I couldn't stop the smile that spread across my face. I had a job. A real job. One that would make grandmother proud. I had no idea then that this job would change my life in ways I couldn't imagine. Monday morning arrived with the kind of determination I'd inherited from grandmother. I'd packed my belongings into 2 suitcases, everything I owned in the world fit into 2 suitcases, and arrived at the Kim mansion at exactly 6:45 a.m. Secretary Park met me at the door, looking almost sympathetic. Your suite is on the 2nd floor, west wing. The boys' rooms are in the east wing. Mr. Kim's suite is on the 3rd floor. Here's your key card. It works for all the common areas and your own room. She led me to my new quarters and I had to suppress a gasp. It wasn't a room, it was an apartment. A bedroom larger than my entire previous studio, a sitting area with a sofa and television, a private bathroom with a tub I could actually stretch out in, and a small kitchenette. This is too much, I said automatically. Mr. Kim insists that anyone caring for his children should be comfortable. Breakfast is at 7:30, lunch at 12:30, dinner at 6:30. The boys need to be ready for school by 8:15. Their driver, Mr. Kong, will take them. They're home by 3:45. Any questions? What do they like for breakfast? Secretary Park blinked as if she hadn't expected that question. They usually make demands for different things. It's chaos every morning. Not anymore. Thank you, Secretary Park. After she left, I unpacked quickly and efficiently, another skill from grandmother. A organized space creates an organized mind, she always said. By 7:15, I was dressed in comfortable but presentable clothes and heading to the boys' wing. I knocked on the first door. Min Jun, time to wake up. Groaning from inside. Second door. Min Ho, rise and shine. Go away. Third door. Min Jae, breakfast in 15 minutes. I'm not hungry. I smiled. This was going exactly as expected. I went to the kitchen where a cook was already preparing various dishes, looking stressed. Good morning. You must be Mrs. Han. I'm JMO, the new nanny. She looked relieved to see me. Oh, thank goodness. The boys usually come down demanding different things and arguing about. Not today. Today we're having a family breakfast. Could you prepare rice, soup, grilled fish, and some fruit? And maybe some eggs. All of them will eat that? They will today. At 7:30 exactly, I went back upstairs. Min Jun's door was still closed. I opened it. Yeah. You can't just come in, he protested, buried under his blankets. I can and I did. You have 5 minutes to be dressed and downstairs, or you'll help Mrs. Han wash dishes after breakfast. I don't care about breakfast. That's fine. You can care about dishes instead. 4 minutes now. I repeated this with Min Ho and Min Jae, who gave similar protests. But at 7:36, all 3 boys appeared in the dining room, hair messy, wearing mismatched clothes, but present. Good morning, I said cheerfully. Please sit down. Where's our food? Min Ho demanded. Right here. We're having a traditional Korean breakfast this morning. But I want pancakes. Min Jae whined. And I want cereal. Min Jun added. I sat down calmly. I understand. And tomorrow, if you ask politely and give me notice, I'll make sure Mrs. Han can prepare what you'd like. But today we're trying this. You don't have to eat if you don't want to. but there won't be snacks until lunch. They stared at me, clearly not expecting this response. Minho picked up his chopsticks first. Fine. But if it's gross, I'm telling Dad. That's fair. The meal was quiet at first, the boys eating reluctantly. But slowly I noticed them taking second helpings, then third. This is actually good, Min-jae admitted quietly. Mrs. Han is an excellent cook. You're lucky to have her. The last nanny let us eat whatever we wanted, Min-jun said, testing me. Did that make you happy? He paused, considering. Not really. We always fought about it. Exactly. Sometimes having too many choices just makes things harder. Sometimes, it's nice when someone makes a good decision for you. After breakfast, getting them ready for school was less chaotic than expected. When they tried to argue about wearing matching outfits, we're not babies. I simply said, you're right. You're not babies. You're smart boys who can make good choices. Choose something appropriate for school and let's go. When Mr. Kim appeared at 8:10, looking harried and already on his phone, he stopped mid-step. You're all ready? He stared at his sons, who were dressed, hair combed, backpacks on, waiting by the door. Good morning, Dad, they chorused somewhat unevenly. His eyes met mine over their heads and I saw something that made my heart skip. Genuine appreciation. Good morning, boys. Have a good day at school. He ruffled each of their heads and they beamed at the attention. After they left, he approached me. Today he was wearing a navy suit that made his shoulders look impossibly broad, and his cologne was subtle but intoxicating. How did you do that? He asked, his voice low. Do what? Get them ready without World War III breaking out. I gave them structure. Children crave it even when they fight against it. He studied me for a long moment, and I became acutely aware of how close he was standing, how his alpha pheromones seemed to wrap around me like warm silk. I have meetings all day, he said finally. But I should be home for dinner. Will you join us? If you'd like. I'd like. The way he said it, with that intensity in his dark eyes, made something flutter in my chest. Then he was gone, leaving me in a cloud of his scent and wondering what I'd gotten myself into. The rest of the week established a pattern. Wake the boys, breakfast together, school preparation, then I'd clean up and prepare for their return. In the afternoons, I'd help with homework. Minho was indeed the smartest, but Min-jun was more creative than he let on, and Min-jae had an emotional intelligence that surprised me. They tested me constantly, of course. On Tuesday they claimed they had no homework. I called their teacher and verified this was untrue. They lost video game privileges for the evening. On Wednesday, Min-jae tried to sneak cookies before dinner. I caught him and added setting the table to his chores. On Thursday, Min-jun and Min-ho got into a physical fight over a toy. I separated them, made them each explain their side, then had them apologize to each other and spend the next hour doing separate quiet activities. You're mean, Min-jun muttered. I'm fair, I corrected. There's a difference. By Friday afternoon, something had shifted. When I picked them up from school, Min-jae ran to me first. Jae-mo-hyung. Look what I drew. He showed me a picture of what appeared to be our family. Him and his brothers, me and a tall figure that must be their father. This is beautiful, I said honestly. Should we put it on the refrigerator? His whole face lit up. Really? Really? That evening, Kim Young came home earlier than usual, 6 p.m. instead of 8 or 9. He found us in the living room, the boys building with Legos while I supervised and occasionally helped with tricky parts. Dad. They rushed to him and he caught all three in a hug that made my chest ache with longing for something I couldn't name. How was your week? He asked them. Good. Minho said. Jae-mo-hyung helped me with my math homework, and I got 100 on my test. Jae-mo-hyung put my drawing on the fridge. Min-jae added. Jae-mo-hyung is teaching us how to play baduk, Min-jun contributed. Kim Young's eyes found mine over their heads. Is he now? They're quick learners, I said. Later, after the boys were in bed, another miracle as they'd gone without major protest, Kim Young found me in the kitchen making tea. You've been here less than a week, he said, leaning against the counter, and you've accomplished what 12 nannies couldn't in 6 months. I haven't accomplished anything. The boys are just good kids who needed someone to believe in them. You're too modest. I poured 2 cups of tea, offering him one. He took it, our fingers brushing in the transfer, and that now familiar jolt of electricity ran through me. Can I ask you something? He said. Of course. Why aren't you mated? Someone with your qualities? I'm surprised some alpha hasn't snatched you up. I smiled, sipping my tea to buy time. I've never been interested in being snatched up. If I ever mate, it will be my choice, not because my biology demands it. Your grandmother taught you that too? She taught me that I'm worth more than my designation. That I should never settle for someone who sees me as just an omega. Something dark and heated flashed in his eyes. And what should they see you as? As JMO. As a person. As an equal. Equal, he repeated softly, moving closer. I like that. The air between us felt charged, heavy with something unspoken. I could smell his alpha pheromones strengthening, responding to my omega scent, and my body wanted to lean into it, to lean into him. Instead I stepped back. I should go. Early morning tomorrow. JMO. Good night, Kim Young SSI. I left before I could do something foolish, like close the distance between us and discover if his lips were as firm and commanding as his voice. 2 months passed in what felt like moments. The boys flourished under structure and genuine care. They still had their moments, they were 8-year-old boys after all, but the change was remarkable. Min Jun discovered he loved reading and would often curl up with books about space and dinosaurs. Min Ho excelled in math and science, always asking why and how. Min Jae showed artistic talent, his drawings becoming more detailed and expressive. But it was my relationship with their father that was becoming complicated. Kim Young traveled less frequently, and when he was home he sought me out. We'd have tea together after the boys were asleep, talking about everything from philosophy to our childhoods. I learned that he'd taken over his father's company at 25 when his father had a stroke. That he'd loved his wife deeply but their marriage had been arranged. That he felt guilty for being away so much when she was sick. I was building the business, he said one night, his voice rough with old pain. Trying to secure their future. And I missed her final months. You were being a provider, I said gently. There's no rulebook for these situations. You did the best you could. Did I? Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the same thing now, putting work before them. You're here now. You're trying. That matters. He looked at me, then really looked at me, and I saw it. The loneliness, the burden of being a single father and a CEO, the weight of always having to be strong. Without thinking, I reached across the table and placed my hand over his. His hand turned, capturing mine, his thumb stroking across my knuckles in a gesture that was far too intimate for an employer and employee. JMO, he said softly, you've become important to me. To us. You're important to me too, I admitted. Is that appropriate? For a nanny to say to their employer? Probably not. Should we stop? Probably. Neither of us moved. Neither of us let go. What are we doing? He whispered. I don't know. But I did know. We were falling. And I didn't know how to stop it or if I even wanted to. The shift happened on a rainy Tuesday in November. The boys were at a sleepover with their cousins, something their aunt had organized. The house felt too large, too quiet without their chaos and laughter. I was in my suite, reading, when there was a knock on my door. Kim Young stood there, hair slightly damp from a shower, wearing casual clothes, jeans and a soft sweater that made him look younger, more approachable. Can I come in? He asked. I should have said no. I should have maintained professional boundaries. Yes. He entered, looking around at my space. I'd personalized it over the months. Photos of my grandmother and parents, some books, a plant Min Jae had given me. You've made it homey, he observed. It's a lovely space. Thank you for providing it. He turned to face me and the air felt electric. I can't stop thinking about you. My breath caught. Kim Young SSI. Young. Just Young. Please. Young, I said, testing his name on my tongue. This is complicated. I know. You're my employer. I know. The boys need stability. I know. He moved closer and I could smell his scent stronger now, cedar and rain and something uniquely him. But I can't deny this anymore. The way I feel when you're near. The way my alpha responds to your omega. The way you've brought life back into this house, into my sons, into me. I feel it too, I whispered. But I'm scared. Of what? Of this being just biology. Of you wanting me only because I'm an omega and you're an alpha. Of losing everything I've built here if this goes wrong. He cupped my face in his hands, his touch gentle despite his strength. Look at me, JMO, really look at me. I did. I looked into those dark eyes and saw desire, yes, but also respect, admiration, genuine feeling. I don't want you because you're an omega, he said. I want you because you're brave and kind and strong. Because you care for my sons like they're your own. Because you challenge me and make me laugh and make me want to be better. Your designation is part of you, but it's not why I'm falling for you. Falling? I repeated, my heart hammering. Falling? He confirmed. So tell me now if you want me to leave. Tell me if this is one-sided and I'll walk away. I'll never bring it up again. We'll remain professional. But if there's even a chance. I kissed him. I'd never been the one to initiate before, had always let alphas come to me in my few past relationships. But with Young I wanted to be bold. I wanted to choose. He made a sound of surprise that quickly turned into a groan as he pulled me closer, his arms wrapping around my waist as he deepened the kiss. His lips were firm but soft, moving against mine with a hunger that made my knees weak. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead against mine. "Is that a yes?" he asked, voice rough. "That's a yes," I confirmed. "But slowly. We take this slowly." "Slowly," he agreed. Then he smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. "Though I'm not sure how slow I can go when you kiss me like that." I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in months. "We'll figure it out together." We did take it slowly, at least at first. Secret glances across the dinner table. Hands brushing as we both reached for something. Late-night conversations that stretched into early morning. Stolen kisses in empty hallways. The boys didn't notice, or if they did, they didn't comment. They were too busy being happy, having both their father around more and me providing stability. But after 2 weeks of chaste kisses and loaded looks, something shifted again. It was a Saturday night. The boys were asleep. Young and I were in his office, supposedly going over the boys' report cards, but really just enjoying each other's company. "Minho's math scores are impressive," I said, looking at the papers. "He gets that from his mother," Young said softly. "She was brilliant. I wish I could have met her. She would have liked you. She always said the boys needed someone strong." He paused. "JMO, can I ask you something personal?" "Always." "Have you been with many alphas?" I set down the papers. "A few. Nothing serious." "Why?" "Because I need to know what you want, what you need. I don't want to assume." I stood up, moving to where he sat behind his desk. Slowly, I lowered myself onto his lap, straddling him, watching his eyes darken with desire. "What I want," I said, my hands on his shoulders, "is you. What I need is for you to show me that this is real. That it's not just the Omega Alpha bond." His hand settled on my waist, firm and possessive. "It's real. Let me prove it to you." "Okay," I whispered. "Prove it." He kissed me then, deep and claiming, one hand sliding up to tangle in my hair while the other held me firmly against him. I could feel his arousal pressing against me, could feel my own body responding, slick starting to form in my body's natural preparation. "Bedroom," he growled against my lips. "I want to do this right. I want to take my time with you." We barely made it to his suite, stopping every few steps to kiss, to touch, to press against each other desperately. When we finally reached his bed, huge and covered in soft dark sheets, he laid me down gently, reverently. "You're beautiful," he said, hovering over me. "So damn beautiful." "So are you," I replied, reaching up to unbutton his shirt. He helped me, shrugging it off before reaching for my clothes. We undressed each other slowly, punctuating each revealed inch of skin with kisses and caresses. When we were finally bare, he took a moment to just look at me, his eyes trailing over every part of my body with such heat that I felt myself flush. "I've imagined this," he admitted. "So many nights, imagining what you'd look like, how you'd feel. And does reality match your imagination? It exceeds it." He kissed down my neck, finding my scent gland and laving it with his tongue until I was writhing beneath him. His hand wrapped around my length, stroking slowly, firmly, in a rhythm that had me gasping. "Young," I moaned. "Please." "Please what?" "Tell me what you want, JMO. You. Inside me. I need." He reached for the bedside table, pulling out supplies. Slick condoms. Despite my Omega biology producing natural lubrication, he was careful, thorough, preparing me with his fingers until I was begging. When he finally pressed inside me, we both groaned at the sensation. He was big, stretching me deliciously, and he moved slowly, letting me adjust, whispering praise and endearments against my skin. "You feel incredible," he murmured. "So perfect. Like you were made for me." Maybe I gasped as he hit that spot inside me that made stars burst behind my eyes. He made love to me thoroughly, changing angles and speeds based on my responses, learning my body like it was the most important study of his life. When I came, it was with his name on my lips and his hand wrapped around my length. He followed moments later, his face buried in my neck, his teeth grazing my scent gland in a way that spoke of future promises. Afterward, as we lay tangled together, he held me close, his hand stroking through my hair. "Stay," he whispered. "Not just tonight. Stay with us. With me." "I'm not going anywhere," I promised. "I mean permanently. Move into my suite. Be mine. Be ours." I pulled back to look at him. "What about the boys? They love you. You know they do. And He swallowed hard. "I love you, JMO. I know it's fast, but I do. I love your strength and your kindness and the way you make this house feel like a home again." Tears pricked my eyes. "I love you too." But the boys, we need to tell them the right way. Make sure they understand. We will. Together. We'll do everything together from now on. I kissed him, pouring all my feelings into it. Together. Telling the boys was easier and harder than expected. We sat them down one Sunday morning, all of us nervous. Young held my hand under the table, his thumb making soothing circles on my palm. Boys, Young started, JMO Young and I need to talk to you about something important. 3 pairs of identical eyes looked at us with curiosity. Are you sending JMO Young away? Min Jae asked, his voice small and frightened. No, we both said at once. Never, I added firmly. I promise. Then what? Min Ho asked suspiciously. Young squeezed my hand. JMO Young and I have become very close. We care about each other very much. And we wanted to know how you'd feel about him becoming a more permanent part of our family. He already is part of our family, Min Jun said, looking confused. I mean, as my partner. As someone I love. The boys looked at each other, having one of their silent triplet conversations. So, like you loved Mom? Min Jae asked carefully. Yes, but different. I loved your mom very much and I always will. But people can love more than one person in their lives. JMO Hyung makes me happy, and I hope he makes you happy too. He does, Min Ho said immediately. He's the best. Does this mean he'll stay forever? Min Jun asked. If you'll have me, I said. I'd like to. Yes. All 3 shouted in unison, launching themselves at us in a group hug that knocked Young and me backward on the couch. As we laughed and hugged and the boys peppered us with questions. Can we call you Appa instead of Hyung? Does this mean you're getting married? Will you have a baby? We want a little sister. I caught Young's eye over their heads. He mouthed, I love you. I mouthed back, I love you too. Moving into Young's suite felt natural, like coming home. We were careful to maintain appropriate boundaries around the boys. No overt displays of affection, no locked doors until late at night. But they seemed happy with the arrangement, often bursting into Appa and Dad's room on weekend mornings to pile into bed with us. I called my grandmother to tell her about the relationship. Finally, she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. I was wondering when you'd find someone worthy of you. You're not upset? That it's so soon? Jayamoya, I raised you to trust your instincts. Do you trust this alpha? With my life. Then that's all I need to know. When do I get to meet him and my great-grandsons? We flew to Jeju Island for Christmas. My first time bringing someone home to grandmother. She took one look at Young, looked at me and nodded approvingly. You chose well, she told me in Korean. Then to Young in perfect English, if you hurt my grandson, you'll have to answer to me. Understood. Yes, ma'am, Young said seriously. I promise to honor and cherish him for as long as he'll have me. The boys fell in love with grandmother immediately and she with them. She taught them traditional games, told them stories and even started teaching them basic Korean that they could practice with me. Your family is beautiful, Young said one night as we watched the boys help grandmother make rice cakes. Thank you for sharing them with me. They're your family now too. 6 months later, Young proposed. It wasn't grand or elaborate. It was perfect. We were at the boys' school concert, watching them perform in a play. Afterward, as we walked back to the car, the boys suddenly stopped. Appa, Dad wants to ask you something, Min Jun announced. I turned, confused, to find Young on one knee, holding a simple platinum band. Choi JMO, he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. You came into my life as a nanny and became so much more. You're my best friend, my partner, my love. You've made me a better father and a better man. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life showing you how much you mean to me? I couldn't speak through my tears, so I just nodded, letting him slip the ring on my finger before pulling him up for a kiss that made the boys cheer and other parents clap. Is that a yes? He asked, grinning. That's a yes. Forever yes. I stood in the kitchen of our home, no longer Young's house but our home, watching the chaos of a Sunday morning unfold. Min Jun, now 10, was helping Min Ho set the table, the two of them arguing good-naturedly about the proper placement of chopsticks. Min Jae was showing Young his latest drawing, which was remarkably detailed for a child his age. And in my arms, sleeping peacefully, was our daughter, Kim So-yoon. 7 months old, with her father's dark eyes and my delicate features. Young caught me watching and crossed the room, pressing a kiss to my forehead and gently stroking So-yoon's soft cheek. Happy? He asked softly. I looked around at our family, loud, messy, perfect. Happier than I ever imagined I could be. Good. Because you're stuck with us now. Stuck with you? I laughed. I think it's the other way around. Appa. Dad. So-yoon is so lucky to have you both. Min Jae called out. Can we hold her? After breakfast, I called back. And after you wash your hands. They groaned but complied, and I smiled at Young. You know, I said, when I took that nanny position I was just looking for a job. And what did you find? I looked at him, at our children, at the life we'd built together. Everything, I said simply. I found everything. He kissed me then, soft and sweet and full of promise. So-yoon stirred in my arms, making little baby sounds, and the boys rushed over, wanting to be part of the moment. As I stood there, surrounded by my family, I thought of grandmother's words from so long ago: stand firm like a mountain, bend like bamboo only when necessary, and never let anyone make you feel lesser because of your designation. I'd done all that and more. I'd found strength in softness, love in unexpected places, and a family that was mine in every way that mattered. And I couldn't wait to see what tomorrow would bring. The house was finally quiet. So-yoon was sleeping peacefully in her nursery, the baby monitor on the nightstand showing her little chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. The triplets were at their grandmother's house. My grandmother had insisted on taking them for the weekend, saying something about, "You two newlyweds need time alone," even though we'd been married for over a year now. I stood at the window of our bedroom, looking out at the Seoul skyline glittering in the darkness. Behind me, I heard the shower turn off, and moments later, Young emerged from the bathroom, hair damp, wearing nothing but loose sleep pants that hung low on his hips. Even after all this time, the sight of him still made my breath catch. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, coming to stand behind me, his arms wrapping around my waist as he pressed a kiss to my shoulder. "How lucky I am," I said honestly, leaning back against his chest. "How different my life is from what I imagined. Better or worse?" I turned in his arms to face him. "So much better. Better than I ever dreamed possible." His dark eyes softened as he cupped my face in his hands. "I'm the lucky one, JMO. You gave me back my family. You gave me love again. You gave me a daughter. You gave me everything." "We gave each other everything," I corrected, running my hands up his bare chest, feeling his heart beating strong and steady beneath my palm. He kissed me then, slow and deep, the kind of kiss that spoke of having all the time in the world. No rushing, no stolen moments, just us. "I love you," he murmured against my lips. "More every single day." "I love you too," I whispered back. "Show me?" His eyes darkened with desire and something deeper. Devotion, tenderness, the kind of love that had grown from respect and friendship into something unshakable. "Always," he promised. He led me to our bed, laying me down gently as he had that first night and every night since. But where that first time had been desperate and urgent, this was different. This was the intimacy of two people who knew each other completely, who had built a life together, who had nothing left to prove. His hands were reverent as they moved over my body, relearning every curve and angle as if he hadn't touched me just this morning, as if each time was the first time and the last time all at once. "You're beautiful," he said, the same words he always said, but they never felt old or routine. Each time he said it like he was discovering something new. "So are you," I replied, pulling him down for another kiss. We took our time, building the heat between us slowly. His lips traced paths across my skin, finding all the places that made me gasp and arch into his touch. My hands explored the planes of his back, the strength in his shoulders, the way his muscles moved beneath my fingers. When he finally joined our bodies together, it was with the perfect familiarity of lovers who had mapped each other's desires, who knew exactly how to move together. The rhythm we found was unhurried but intense, each movement deliberate and full of meaning. "JMO," he breathed my name like a prayer, his forehead pressed against mine, our breath mingling. "My JMO. "Yours," I agreed, meeting him thrust for thrust. "Always yours." The pleasure built between us like a slow wave, gathering strength, carrying us higher. He whispered words of love and praise, telling me how good I felt, how perfect we were together, how much he needed me. When we finally reached that peak together, it was with our eyes locked, our hearts synchronized, our souls intertwined. The physical pleasure was intense, yes, but it was the emotional connection that made me cry out his name, that made him bury his face in my neck as he shuddered in my arms. Afterward, we lay tangled together, skin cooling in the air-conditioned room, hearts gradually slowing to normal rhythms. Young held me close, one hand stroking through my hair, the other resting possessively on my hip. "Do you remember," he said softly, "the first time I saw you? When you stood in my office and told me you weren't afraid of my sons?" I smiled against his chest. "I remember thinking you were the most intimidating alpha I'd ever met. And now you're just mine. My husband. My partner. My love." He tilted my face up, kissing me softly. "I never believed in fate before you. I thought love was practical, transactional. But you changed everything." "We changed each other," I said. "You taught me it was okay to let someone take care of me sometimes. That accepting love didn't make me weak. And you taught me that strength comes in many forms. That the strongest person in the room isn't always the loudest or the most powerful. Sometimes it's the one who shows up every day with kindness and consistency. We lay in comfortable silence for a while, just holding each other, listening to the sound of our breathing and the distant hum of the city below. JMO? Oh, thank you. I propped myself up to look at him. For what? For taking a chance on us. On me. For not giving up when the boys tested you. For staying. For building this life with me. I traced my fingers along his jaw, feeling the slight stubble there. You make it sound like I did you a favor. But young, you saved me too. I was so lost before I found this family. I had my grandmother's strength, but I didn't have purpose. You gave me that. The boys gave me that. We found each other, he said simply. And I thank every star in the sky for that. I kissed him again, pouring all my love into it. When we finally pulled apart, I settled back against his chest, his arms wrapped securely around me. I called grandmother today, I said. She wants to know if we've thought about her suggestion. Young chuckled, the sound rumbling through his chest. About having another baby? She says so you needs a sister. And that I should give you an alpha son, since you're stuck with 4 omegas. First of all, I'm not stuck with anyone. Second, our children's designations don't matter to me. Third. He paused, his hand moving to rest on my stomach. I wouldn't mind giving Soyun a sibling. When you're ready. My heart swelled. Maybe we should start practicing then? His eyes darkened with renewed desire. Is that so? Well, we have all weekend with no children. It would be a shame to waste it. He rolled us over, hovering above me with that smile that still made my knees weak. I love the way you think, Mr. Kim. I love you, Mr. Kim, I replied. And I love you. More than words can say. As he kissed me again as we began to explore each other once more, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. From a desperate job application to this, a home filled with love and laughter, a family that chose each other every single day, a partner who saw all of me and loved me not in spite of it but because of it. Grandmother had been right all those years ago. Being an omega didn't make me weak. It made me strong in different ways. And finding an alpha who recognized that, who celebrated it, who built me up rather than tearing me down, that was everything. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars. Inside, wrapped in Young's arms, I had everything I'd ever needed. I was home. Later, much later, when we were both sated and drowsy, Young pulled me close, my back to his chest, his arm draped protectively over my waist. Hey JMO, he murmured sleepily. Oh, I meant what I said earlier. Thank you. For everything. For being you. I laced my fingers through his. Thank you for seeing me. The real me. Always, he promised, pressing a kiss to my shoulder. I'll always see you. Always love you. Always choose you. Forever. I asked even though I already knew the answer. Forever, he confirmed. And as I drifted off to sleep in the arms of the man I loved, surrounded by the life we'd built together, I knew with absolute certainty that this was exactly where I was meant to be. This was my happily ever after. And it was perfect.